Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tigers Minor League Report podcast here at TigersMLReport.com. I am Roy Castillo. Alongside me, Brandon Day and Chris Brown will eventually be on shortly as the Tigers on the off day. Everybody's off today. The Tigers, all the minor league affiliates, of course, that being Monday, as the Tigers kick off a 3-game series with the Baltimore Orioles starting tomorrow. And they are just fresh off beating the best team in the National League, the Chicago Cubs, in a 2 out of 3 game series, with Jack Flaherty throwing a gem of a game yesterday. 6 innings, 2 hits, 3 walks, 9 strikeouts, and the velocity was up, so that was good to see. And very, very good large crowds at Comerica Park Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Yesterday I was going to head down there, and then I woke up with the worst migraine I've had in a long time, and it sucked. So the entire day I was just bedbound, and I didn't even watch a lot of baseball yesterday, so it was everything pretty much highlights and watching the game replay this morning. But overall, Saturday I was out there, and it was a great crowd on hand and a lot of Cub fans there. And the outcome for the Cubs Saturday was a little different for that. But Chris Brown with me there. Good evening, sir. What's it look of bewilderment? You look confused.
It says I'm offline, and it says I'm muted.
What? No, you're online right now, man.
Yeah, but it's got my muted over the microphone, and all I see is it says offline and the gray face.
So everybody if everybody who's in here right now on YouTube can hear Chris, just give us a simple, we can hear you, Chris, the chat.
No, I mean, if you can hear me, I assume they can. It's just kind of, I mean, it's not bad. I don't have to see myself.
Yeah. Sam's like, you're live on air.
Can you see me?
Yeah. I think, You know what? Because maybe you were logged in as me before.
It's probably been.
Yeah, there we go.
There can't be two. There can be only one.
There can only be one.
You're going to have to cut my head off.
Well, yeah, because you did the show from my account Thursday with Uper, and so that's probably what it was. So that's all that. That's probably what happened. I was in Minnesota last week, and I have to thank the Bleacher Report, or the Bleacher Creatures podcast. I think it was the Cubs podcast. I was able to jump out a little later evening post dinner, and everybody was smoking cigars outside and everything, and I joined the Cubs podcast, and
nice.
I was doing it basically with this like perspective from like my phone. So, but no, it was a good series win for the Tigers. It was a good challenge for them too. You look at some of the bullpen ERAs, and there was a stat today about the I think it was the MLB Now, or one of those Twitter accounts posted a stat about some of the what the free agents have been able to do, and Gleyber Torres, for example, and Tommy Kane, and just the back end of the bullpen has been looking pretty good so far, and it came up big time in this series.
Yeah, I mean, and Canely and Vest have been pretty much lights out for most of the year. I think they've had a couple of rough outings between them, but generally speaking, when they come into games, you feel pretty good about it. It's just so that's nice to have for sure. We know relievers are up and down all the time. It would I think feel better to have another arm, maybe 2 more that you trust that much. And that's, maybe that's asking for too much, but if you're going to be a legitimate World Series contender, you're going to need a bunch of really solid arms, and there will be good relief arms out there. There always are. So I think that's something that they can easily address. But for now, yeah, I mean, they're getting, when Hannafy gets out there, it always feels like a bit of a roller coaster because he's a pitch to contact guy. But Chase Lee has been touched up a little bit in these last couple outings, but yeah, really those back 2 guys are really, you can really count on them. And Brent Herder, it seems like every time he goes out there, he gets the job done for multiple innings. It's a really valuable bullpen arm that doesn't get a whole lot of attention, I don't think.
No, I agree with you. I think Brent Herder has been, since we saw him in Erie 2 years ago, just continues to evolve as a pitcher. And I really think that you're right, doesn't get enough credit, but also at the same time, pitches a lot of stress innings too. It's not just like garbage innings or anything like that. And so I think that the biggest takeaway that I've had from him too is that he made that evolution from a starter. I honestly thought maybe he might be a back end starter.
Yeah,
but to be able to come out of the bullpen like that, that's an adjustment a big time adjustment, because it's a totally different mindset to go out there and pitch pressure packed situations like that. Just like Brandon Day in his pressure packed.
His pressure packed beer there.
Yeah,
That's
I've been working outside. I've been editing. I got in late.
Nice.
It's a beer 30. All right, let's go.
Yeah.
Nitro brew there.
No,
Possibly.
I think there would have been years when Brent Herder would have gotten like 30 starts, right? Like they would have, and he probably in the ERA probably would have been, high fours, low fives. He's a talented guy, but he seems to be in the perfect role for him right now, it's kind of what this team is about, right? Unless you're one of the handful of just, true everyday studs, everybody is just finding their role that's best for them. And it's, it's been kind of, I don't know, dare I say magical so far? You can't do much better than this weekend series, right? Like this is the two best teams in baseball by record coming together and sellout crowds, standing room only. You get the Tigers, two of their best pitchers. The Cubs are just bombing home runs all over the place on Saturday night, and you get the series win, and it's just like it's been all year. Like they just keep rolling along.
Here's something to roll along too. And the Tigers right now have the best record in all of baseball, but the SeaWolves have 1.5 game lead over Akron right now for the Eastern League Southwest Division. The Florida Lakeland has a 2-game lead over Tampa, and West Michigan right now is a 5-game lead as they will be taking on Lansing this week. And basically right now, I think it's June 19th, I believe, that the first half ends. And so right now there might be a possibility, ladies and gentlemen, that 3, and not even including the FSL Tigers, who are also, they are tied with the FSL Blue Jays right now for the lead in the division. So there might be a possibility that not one, and I'm trying to do a LeBron James here because I don't, not one, not two, but yeah, possibly 5 teams may reach the postseason. I'm not counting out the Mud Hens because Mud Hens can still win the second half, right? I think they could, in theory.
I don't know how that works, but
because AAA's got some weird rules, right? There has something.
Yeah, it does. It does have some strange qualifications for sure. When does the first half end on June 26th? That's kind of what I've been working with.
What, AAA? Yeah, AAA. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
AAA's ends the 26th, and so yeah, there's that right there. What the reason why I point that out is because I started a project. I'm doing a project on the 2021 West Michigan Whitecaps, doing a whole video thing, and thanks to Ben Love and the Jim Drecke, the owner of the Whitecaps, who gave me some access to some photos, and shout out to them. And I believe it's Amber, I think, who was the other person that gave me some information. But they are like looking back and going through some of the 2019-2021 teams in the Midwest League and across the system. Jerry brought up a question about, have we ever seen this kind of dominance? And not really. And we'll definitely be talking about Chris Rodriguez, Andrew. They'll be brought up at some point. Trust me. We're not gonna forget about a guy hitting, 17 years old, hitting like bombs like he did earlier today.
I think there may have been a few Rays teams over the last 5-6 years.
Well, I meant about like Tiger wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even what they're doing right now is kind of unprecedented for throughout minor league baseball. Yeah. So you got West Michigan's magic number is 5.
Yeah, 5. Yeah.
But they're playing the team directly behind them in the standings. Basically, as long as they don't get swept in a 6-game series, they're going to win the playoffs or make the playoffs.
Erie's magic against Lansing this week. Yep.
Yeah. Erie's magic number is 11. I think they have 2 weeks left. In Lakeland, this is the final week in the Florida State League, right? So they just need to kind of go 4-2.
Yeah.
I think, and they should be okay. But unfortunately, it's at Palm Beach.
Yeah.
Ooh,
so we get nothing. We get no video. We get no StatCast. We get nothing. Good day, sir.
Thank you, Palm Beach. What the hell's wrong with you? What, is that the Cardinals? Is that the Cardinals, right?
Yeah.
Really, the Cardinals? The Cardinal way? You can't even get that right? Get out of here, man! What nonsense.
Yeah, it's bad. And the Cardinals were a problem last year, but this year that team isn't as good, so they should take them out and do well against them.
Oh, apparently Jake says that Palm Beach does have video.
What? Wait a minute.
Okay.
They didn't know the last time, did they? I thought it was garbage. Maybe,
you know what, Jake? We'll have to.
Well, let me check.
Yeah,
Easy enough to I don't doubt Jake, and maybe I'm talking out of my rear again.
So Sebastian wants to know. Sebastian wants to know if there's a realistic trade out there. Vet. We'll get to that because a vet right-handed bat, that's not ridiculous. I'm going to be doing a trade piece about that some point soon. So
it's tough because right now everybody wants to talk about that because there isn't that much else to talk about. Like for the most part, things are going well. Obviously, the offense has cooled off somewhat, but that was not so shocking. And maybe they'll just heat right back up. It's hard to tell if this is a slump or if they're coming back down to earth exactly or what the deal is. But that we know Scott Harris, and the idea that he's going to make any kind of significant trade right now is pretty far fetched. And we don't know what we're going to need. 6-7 weeks from now, there may be an injury that makes something else way more important than hunting for that bat. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, I've already got people, like, can't we get, Gino Suarez here or someone like that? A right-handed hitter. Gino Suarez isn't a great pick because he doesn't hit lefties that well. That's not really his profile. Maybe Jemai Jones will work out. But yeah, this is just a weird part of the year always. Like you get into, June from now till the All-Star break. Players are tired. They're starting to break down. We see Carey's been dealing with a little bit of a hamstring thing that they're just trying to be careful about. Riley's been running a little gingerly. Like guys are wearing down right now. So, battling out the next 5 weeks is going to be pretty crucial, but the schedule is at least favorable. They don't have any more West Coast trips. It's hard to say, like the Orioles are playing better baseball, so it's not going to be as easy as it might have been in April right now. But, overall, the Reds, the Pirates, they should kind of just keep it going here, you would assume.
Yeah, and that's where, you're right, Brandon. We're in this weird time of year where look, if there's anything, I'm with Andrew on this, and I think that there is a swing and miss reliever, as Chris just mentioned too, just right before he got on, maybe possibly two.
Yeah,
but I'm on the belief that they need a bat. I will die on that hill because here's the thing, it's a little bit of what especially when you see Carpenter around the locker room. Not to say he's limping around or anything, but they are always attending to. He's always getting a hamstring worked on, and baseball, and especially too with some of those plays he made a really good catch. The Jesus catch, I call it because he looks like Jesus like that. And he has been. I mean, he also had that great throw too. He's been really good in right field. It's really weird. It's like Jekyll and Hyde. Sometimes he looks really good. Sometimes he looks out of there. But I think it's also maybe because the hamstring's not 100%, and that could be the case. And the same thing with sometimes when Riley Green takes takes the outfield path back, and you're like, whoa, is he going to fall or what? Because sometimes it looks like he's going to fall. And I'm not, again, he's an elite athlete, and I have no business, he's been at a 30% clip rate. I know Lynn Henning's he needs to not strike out as much, but he came through yesterday. Yes, we understand that. But the reason why you want a bat is for one of those reasons I just mentioned. Because, as much as we love Winfield Perez, same thing, he's also been, getting thrashed out there, too. It's been, sometimes, some of these injuries, you're just because full well, outside, if you go down to Toledo and Erie, there's not much alternative. Akil Baddoo is designated in for assignment to bring up Jones. I'm not sure if has he been picked up yet?
Not that I've seen, no.
No, not that I know of.
Okay. Yep. So,
and then we've got Margot Ash down there, but that's not really exciting to anybody. I think what's going to help though a lot is having Parker Meadows back because Riley is really good going toward the line. Riley is really good coming in. Riley is not as good, basically having to backhand going into the alley. And he's not going to have to do as much of that because, Parker Meadows just, cruises over there like a beautiful gazelle and, has 9-inch, 10-inch vertical.
Yeah.
You can haul those things in. So, some of that might help them, but yeah, managing those little nagging injuries right now without it really becoming a problem is going to be crucial. And, people are going to have to continue, to put up with Kerry Carpenter sitting on the bench sometimes and, the lineup not looking, like what you would exactly want on paper. So that's just the way it is. Hopefully they can get those guys to the All-Star break, get them, a week off where they can fully recover and we'll go from there.
Yeah, put them in a hyperbaric chamber, put them in some sort of whatever you got to do.
Bubble wrap them and put them in the hyperbaric chamber.
Yeah. I just watched Department Q, which is a show on Netflix. Because yesterday, literally, I didn't leave the couch. I just was misery. And I just watched the only TV I could watch was just like, I didn't even have the lights on, and I was watching the show called Department G with Matthew. Oh God, I can't remember the guy's name. Anyway, it's just a British detective show, and the guy, one of the things that I'm not gonna spoil it. Just watch it. But the hyperbolic chamber is the main. It was one of the main stars of the movie.
Is it the instrument? Is it the instrument of murder? Okay, you can't tell us.
Yeah, I can't tell you anything. No. Yeah, so. But no, in overall, like, here's the thing too. Like, if we're gonna be nitpicking here a little bit about the series over the weekend, or games like Saturday, for example, people were complaining about Montero. They were all solo shots, and they were all on pitches that hung over the plate. Other than that, he wasn't bad. He wasn't. I mean, again, what did he? I mean, was it great? No, but the Tigers also keep in mind the rotation is something that you have to consider too at some point, because Mitchell brought up somebody like Chris Sale. I don't think the Braves are going to trade Chris Sale, but
they might. I mean, he's got
really.
They're 10 games under 500, and he's got I think a player option, club option. I don't remember what. There's 1 year after this year possible.
I think that's right. Yeah,
and they don't have much of a farm system. And he's getting older, so he would be one that I would think would make a lot of sense to get traded.
Yeah, I mean, they can't really expect him to go on and be like, part of the, the answer 2 or 3 years from now when they're, hopefully, Cunha looks good. He's back, but they're just so far back right now. Yeah, you'd have to think they'd try to punt, reload this year, take an opportunity to rebuild the farm system and actually draft, somewhere, maybe decently next year, and then kind of proceed from there. But yeah, I mean, trading for Chris Sale's not like the worst idea I've ever heard. He and Scooble have the same, change up, so they can commiserate about that. Scooble's out there teaching all these people change-ups. I don't know if I like it, man. Robbie Ray, the change-up.
Robbie Ray. Yeah. So Sale's only making $19 million this year. I'm trying to see what there's a club option for next year. I wonder what that is.
I just don't. The thing is that I wouldn't necessarily. I don't like doing the. I don't see the Tigers doing like the big name thing. I mean, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just like, would that be under Dave Dombrowski? Maybe Dave Dombrowski would decide to go and trade within the division. Now, no, I don't think the Philly Braves would do that. But
so it's an $18 million club option next year. So that's $3 million more than they gave Alex Cobb. That's the price of like a back end starter now. If you can go get Chris Sale for the rest of this year and next year, so you got him and Scooble for 1 more year, I'd say do it.
Man.
It depends on what it costs, obviously, but.
Yeah, and there may be some competition for that. I mean, that probably is going to take a top 100 guy.
Yeah,
maybe two.
I mean, just go ahead and put him on the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Automatic. Yeah, or the Padres, but then the Padres.
How weird would it be just how weird would it be to have Chris Sale pitching for the Tigers?
It'd be the most ironic. The most ironic thing ever. I mean, it would be the whole entire the jersey cut up days in Chicago, all those weird things about him. Yeah. That would be rather ironic. But, I mean, at the same time, I could see, a team also that could use some pitching, the Mariners. And the Mariners haven't done – here's the thing. The reason why I consider the Mariners is –
we're in the bizarro world.
Bizarro world.
That is
bizarre. Yeah, because the Poto hasn't done a trade in a while. So it's been way too long. I mean, he's usually like, go, trade. And he hasn't done a trade. Go ahead, what?
Well, they've just been so good at pitching the last few years and so bad at offense, and this year suddenly they're hitting and their pitching's falling apart.
Yeah, Chris Rowley is a man. I mean, projected 63 home runs right now, but at the same time, but then it's also I have a couple friends that work some of my coworkers who live out in Seattle, because that's where majority of my day job is. They are still they're all excited, but I actually it was funny. I was talking to former Tiger pitcher Charlie Forbush about the Mariners, because he's doing a Mariners podcast, and I reached out to him. He said he'd come on the podcast, so definitely want to talk to him about Mariners at some point. But anyway, they're slowly but surely drinking the Kool-Aid out in Seattle right now. But everybody, ever since the Seahawks won, by the way, the Mariners are not like the toast of the town like they used to be. They're waiting to kind of like, you know what? The Washington area alone is really good baseball fans. They have fantastic baseball knowledge and what have you. But some of the managers I was talking to today were just like, they're still skeptical because it's just a regular season right now. So they're
Yeah, they've had a lot of good teams over the last 24 years, without really ever getting anything done. George Kirby coming back and looking great the other night, though, has got to make them feel a little bit better. I mean, that staff is supposed to, the rotation is supposed to carry them, and if Kirby's healthy and going good, that changes the equation for them a little bit. But Cal Raleigh has just been incredible.
Yeah.
Dylan Dingler would probably be, a name on everybody's lips right now if it wasn't for his punk ass.
And I think Logan Gilbert is working his way back from the same injury that Job has. So we'll see. That they could just get some help from within.
Yeah.
I mean, and to go back to talking about relief help, the other thing about the Tigers is that they're going to try every damn thing they have on hand first.
Right.
There's a reason Matt Manning is still on the 40-man roster, and they're still trying to make this work. He had a couple pretty good relief appearances over the last 2 weeks. Like, oddly, is like throwing more pitches in relief than he did as a starter. Throwing like curveball, sweeper, splitter, slider, cutter now a little bit, four-seamer. It's like, man, the whole thing is an enigma to me.
Yeah,
but but Dylan, yeah, exactly. But Dylan Smith, if he can tighten things up a little bit, is going to get another look. And as we've talked about, Troy Melton is a pretty good candidate to join the bullpen in the second half if he can throw strikes a little bit more consistently at the level they need him to. And maybe Yosber, maybe somebody like that, makes a little push. Sealinger's been pitching pretty well. They've got like some guys that they might want to try.
Yeah.
Because they're just that type. They just don't want to, they don't want to trade from the farm. And I know Harris said that he would, when the time is right. But, what you don't really want to do is just like dink and dunk your way to like, well, let me get like this utility guy and give up like, two guys in the, the back of the top 10, that kind of thing. Like, if he's going to do something, I would hope that he would be the guy to either like find a cheap way to do it or to actually go in and trade for someone good.
You gotta see the secret. You gotta see the secret word, Brandon. You gotta see the secret word. Ready for it? Like as Mark would say, Mark Garage would say, ready?
You ready for this?
Ready for this? Fringe. Oh, you need to get a fringe player. That's what you need to get a fringe. I love Mark, but I had to do Mark Garage.
Add a little fringe in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but what do we want? We want, an absolute assassin reliever, and we want like a third baseman. And I can't complain about people wanting another bat. I mean, I bitched and moaned and begged and cried and pled and bargained for Alex Bregman all off season, and fell again $13 million short, which we gave to Alex Cobb. But and he's hurt, so but he'll be back. So maybe we could trade for Alex Bregman. We keep joking about that, but I don't really see I just don't really see them picking up like a little piece. Like that just doesn't seem like the move that they're going to make. They're either going to try to reclaim some dude who's been injured and sort that out, work through all their minor league options, and maybe if all else fails, Scott Harris will actually make a big trade. Maybe he'll look at this stockpile of catching prospects, Enrique Jimenez, and now Valencia coming out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Maybe not really a defensive catcher that AJ Hinch would ever, prefer to use, but still other teams feel differently. And the ABS is coming. You guys don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe there is something like that in the future, but they're going to hold their powder and see how things play out, obviously, for the next 8 weeks while we all, scheme and connive and look through stats and try to find somebody. Obviously, you look at the Trump teams and you look like, okay, what can I get from the Marlins or the Rockies or whatever? Can we get Shane Smith from the White Sox? Are they foolish enough to trade him away? Jerry Reinsdorf is distracted right now.
Yeah.
They got a lot going on over there.
Yeah, they're trying to sell. He's trying to cash in. And real quick here, Mitch, you guys think Melton would be the next man up if he is an injury? Yes, absolutely. The Tigers love Troy Melton. Hinch loves Troy Melton. There's been many times since last fall that Troy Melton's been mentioned in front of us, even off the record. And so Troy Melton is a guy that they're looking at extensively. That's why he's in Toledo right now. I mean, guys like Jaden Ham, Joseph Montero, who's injured anyway, but that's Melton's the next man up. Yeah. I forgot essentially.
Montalvo's hurt. Yeah.
Montalvo's hurt. So, Silky, thank you. I'm almost ashamed it took me so long to discover you guys and cripple what you guys have done. Appreciate the comment. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
But
that's very unlike Silky Johnson to say that.
Silky Johnson, what happened to the hate?
Yeah.
Am I going to have to go put water in Buck Mama's dish for you?
Buck Nasty. Silky.
Oh,
but
Silky.
Thank you. Yeah.
No, and here's the thing too. Like Milton is throwing with the different balls. So there's going to be an adjustment for that. I know there was a couple of like, well, there's no swing and misses. Well, I think it'll come in time. I'm not really worried about it.
Yeah. I mean, there's some semantics there in that argument too, because his cutter is essentially a hard slider. It's not a fastball. It's a breaking ball. And that's Cleveland. So they're super annoying. And they have a bunch of lefties. And his changeup wasn't really working, so he had to. He was his only weapon really to attack these lefties was trying to like backdoor sliders and curveballs, and then throwing the cutter under their hands. And he did it really well a bunch of times. Just when he missed a couple times, he gave up some hits, and then he's not alone in this. But his fastball plays really well up in the zone or down in the zone, but not so much right in the middle of the zone.
Yeah.
And one of the home runs was that. But I mean he's out there. He touched 98, I think.
Yeah. 98.6, and he doesn't get that much like horizontal movement. So like right across the middle of the plate, not great, but a lot of ride for sure.
Yeah. I'm not really concerned with him right now. It's just a matter of time for him. It's the same thing with like Dylan Smith getting another look. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, you just look at the wrong ingredients there, right? Like this, I think his softest fastball was probably 94.5, right? Like, so he's sitting 96, touching 98. And he's got 4 or 5 other pitches. He throws the sinker now. He's got the cutter. He's got the slider. He's got the curve. He's got the change. Like that's just, you get him up with Federer and those guys to play around with them for a couple weeks, and they're gonna work some magic with him.
Yeah, and that changeup has been really good at times. Like it's always kind of been inconsistent, but when he's got it going, it's a pretty damn good changeup. It looks a little bit like Job's to me. So yeah, I mean, I think they can work with him, and of course they can also this year they might just simplify everything and put him in the bullpen in the second half, and let it rip, and then maybe he goes back to starting next year. But yeah, I mean, there's just more potential. Like Dylan Smith, will hit 98, but Dylan Smith is also a lot more like 93, 94 most of the time.
Yeah.
And it's got he's got good metrics on the fastball. It doesn't need to be like a ton more than that, but he needs to be a little bit. He just needs to repeat his delivery a little more consistently. Is probably all it is.
Yeah. It's not hard to think of. You throw Melton in the bullpen for one inning, and he's probably sitting 98, touching triple digits, and throwing 94-mile-an-hour cutters. It's like, this might work just fine, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, and also you got to consider too that Dylan Smith has only got 30 innings in bullpen role. So to him, this is still. I mean, the fact that here we are in June, and here he got called up in a new role is considerably impressive. And that's something to consider because you look at the options right now with, Madden's on the IL. You have Flores on the IL. You have Tyler Mattson still not nearly what he should be at. And so, the Tigers are, you look at their West Michigan roster right now and the next crop that can come up to Erie, none of those guys are really going to make that change over until next year, the year after. So there is really right now, it is kind of like if I'm looking at this objectively, period, AA and AAA are kind of thin when it comes to starting pitching and relievers. They really, you have like you could throw it on the wall and see if it works. Right. But if you're talking like a guy like who go out there and swing and miss, Melton, and that is it. I'm sorry, like that the Cuban pitcher they got just Gouache. I haven't seen him enough to anything. And Matt Sillinger is a good story too. But even what's it? Yeah. Nate or Nick with a weird funky name.
Margashevich. Margashevich has this.
Cool. Good story. He's been pitching well, but just like Hernandez, you're not getting enough strikeouts for me. Sorry.
Yeah. And, Bailey Horn, Bailey Horn is hurt. Like, Bailey Horn has good stuff, but he hasn't been able to ever corral it together. So, yeah, I mean, they're not flush with tons and tons of options. I mean, I think that's fair. Alex Cobb, pitched okay the other day, but, he's moving around like me after a hard day of digging holes with a shovel. And, both hips just shot, and I'm just like, oh, God. I can still stomp on that shovel, but it's hurting. So yeah, I mean, there's just there's kind of a thinning out going on there in the upper minors right now. So there isn't a ton of help, but there are still those couple guys. Like I don't know, maybe they use Manning. I have to feel like they're going to try that at some point. Maybe Dylan Smith gets tightened up a little bit, but yeah, at the end of the day, like if I had to put my money on one guy really working out and being good for him, it's going to be Melton.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at a situation like somebody's bringing up like Bregman being traded from Boston to keep losing. Imagine them right now going and having a player like Devers who's like, we need to play first. Like, nah, I'm not doing it.
Right.
and he's kind of like being a dick.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think the Red Sox handled that badly by not
Yeah.
really talking it through with him. It seems like, they just signed Bregman out of thin air, and everybody in the organization was like, "What the hell? Like, what's the plan?" But at the same token, he's under a long-term contract. Just play where you're freaking told to play for the most part. If they gave him some time to work on it and they weren't just like giving him ultimatums from the start, which I would assume they weren't doing, get it together.
Yeah.
Kenny Sirwa, boy,
Yeah.
I just don't know. Like, he's interesting. He is certainly interesting, but I don't think, I think there's just too many mistakes. I just think major league hitters are going to tee off on him, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's what Kevin. I would agree with Kevin there. There are a lot of it's just sometimes you can get away with it in high A, but you can't get away with it in Erie.
Yeah.
No, it's when you watch it, it's not like one of those knuckleballs where you go, "Good Lord!"
Yeah.
Like he gets some awkward swings and stuff, but yeah, knuckleballs when they don't do what they're supposed to do, they're batting practice fastballs and they get demolished. And I always say you don't know if a knuckleballer is legit until his third season in the big leagues, like, and then it can all fall apart. So, he can certainly, if a disaster strikes and you need somebody to eat some innings, he probably could. He's probably not going to blow out his arm throwing knuckleballs, but yeah, it's going to be a little while before we know if he's got anything.
Yeah, and I mean, and the other part of this is that the Tigers improve pitchers every year. Like, we've seen it year after year. By the second half, guys who were struggling in the first half will probably be pitching better. Like, maybe they sort Tyler Holton out because that mainly seems like a command issue where he's just not as sharp. I mean, he still has better command than most people, but he doesn't have the stuff. So he's really got to be sharp to do what he's done the last couple of years, and he's got to throw a lot of first pitch strikes, and he hasn't been doing that as much. I kind of pointed that out somewhere. His first pitch strike rate is down 8 or 9% this year, and you can't give free swings, to major league hitters from a guy who throws 91, 90. It's if he had like a really wicked breaking ball or something else that he could kind of spam, that might work, but he doesn't really have that. He gets by having like 3 different pitches for each hand of each side of the plate, basically. So, maybe they'll sort him out. Maybe Hannafy or Brisky gets better. Hannafy's been okay for the most part in his kind of Foley-ish role, but not a guy who's going to dominate in the late innings. So, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a need there, and I think we all know it. But with the guys they've got at the back end and Herder, they should be able to, like, hold their own, no problem, for most of the rest of the first half at least.
Yeah.
It should be, I don't know, like it's, go ahead, Chris.
It's fun to complain about the best record in baseball. Like, not complaining, but like, I don't know, it could be a little bit better here.
Yeah, I mean, I know you kind of got to like pick at it. You know what I noticed the other day is that the Tigers are one of the worst hitting teams against curveballs.
Yeah,
and that was the case last year a little bit too, but it's been worse this year. And if you think about like all these sort of like decent starting pitchers who dominated them, but you didn't really expect, like Brown the other day. Some of those guys, they have a good curveball, and if they and that's the thing with the freaking Guardians is that everybody there has a good curveball. It seems like it just seems like one of those traits that they really have as a guy who has a sinker, a solid 4-seamer with life, and then they have a curveball, and maybe they have a changeup, but they just throw a ton of curveballs. So that's something to look for if you guys want to go find the best right-handed curveball hitting utility man who may be available at the deadline. We may have a winner.
Yeah, no, it's the opposite of what Cleveland has with Pedro Serrano. I mean, the Tigers have a bunch of guys who can't hit curveballs. But by the way, Charles, thank you for the $10 for the super chat. He gets the assignment. So if you want, I've been trying to do this a little more. If you have a question, get a super set. Send us the super chat. Goes right back to us. Minus the taxes, of course, the YouTube. But still, it's really cool and it just goes a long way. So thank you so much, and you get a
exquisite.
Dan Hastings, you also get a
off the Frickers building
from the late great Jim Weber. So here's his question. His question is: you are the GM, and you have the best you have the best team in the MLB and top-rated farm system. And aren't you obligated to make a trade at the deadline and cash in on some of the work you've done by the front office? Yes, you are obligated to do this. And we mentioned this a little bit last week, Brandon. We were talking about how the Braves in the 90s would use their farm system as trade capital to get guys like Fred McGriff. The list goes on and on. I mean, they always use their farm system to make themselves a World Series contender every year, or in the case of the Braves in the 90s, a division title winner every year after a while. But no, I think the Tigers are in the unique, for the first time, we mentioned this, that if they made a couple trades to the farm system, the depth would still hold. And the reason why somebody was giving some crap about writing a article about Bryce Rayner going down the season IL. Well, he's going to be starting in West Michigan next year anyway. Yeah, no crap. But there's other players that can step up in the absence and see what they can have. Although Frangier Montilla continues to struggle at the plate. Woody Haroldine, what is he going to be? What is Jack Penny? There's a lot of other players you can consider that could get some more spotlight now that Rayner's out for the year. So try to think big picture here with that. I think the Tigers should make a trade, and because not just to make a trade, just to make a trade, but a trade that's going to go. They have the people in the front office that recognize that what kind of impact they had. Look at the free agents they signed. Those guys have been very impactful. So I think they have the personnel in the front office to make it. Now it's just a matter of identifying the player that can put them over the edge.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd probably all agree. Like, you've got to take your shot. That can be anything from trading, Briseño or Lorenzo and a package for someone really good, all the way down to just trying to get the best relief, rental that you possibly can. It's just, that's one thing we don't have a beat on Scott Harris about. Like, we know that he doesn't really like to trade prospects. We know that he likes to stockpile to the farm, but he's also a guy who understands, as he said repeatedly, that at a certain point, you've got the farm system built up. It's imperative to, make your team as good as it can be for the second half and try to win. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a trade. It's just really hard to predict what it will be and like what scale right now, because things could change a lot in the next 7 weeks. If I don't even want to speak anything into existence, but if a starting pitcher goes down who we really need, for example, and I'm not talking about Tarek Skubal, because if that happens, we're pretty fucked. But, if something like that happens, then that becomes the priority. If Javi Baez and Zach McKinstry can both WRC plus around 100 and play shortstop, then you don't have to worry about that. And maybe you can't really find an upgrade. I mentioned Bo Bichette a lot last year. Doesn't really look like that great an idea at this point. So yeah, we'll just kind of have to play it by ear, but I definitely think it's imperative that they try. The next 2 years, people can make too much of a big deal about windows, but you have Tarek Skubal for this year and you have him for next year. You better be trying to win a World Series like now. But whether that means Scott Harris is going to go, make some massive, mega deal, he just doesn't seem like the type. He seems like the type to, try to be as moderate and, discount hunting as possible.
And I think they have enough players that are kind of on the fringes, if that makes sense, as you were talking earlier, where you could make a deal where it's a couple guys who are AAA or, quad A types. Like young Malloy, Kaiser Montero, you could put in a deal, right? And that would be, you got 5-6 years of Kaiser Montero. Somebody might be enticed by that. And you could throw in some guys at like low A or the rookie level who are just interesting. And yet scouts like a Jose Dixon or a Jesus Pinto or something like that. And you could probably make a deal like that. I don't picture any of the top 5 bats getting traded. I can't really see a scenario. It's possible maybe one of Briseño or Lorenzo, if there's like a fantastic deal there, and those guys are that's the centerpiece, just because they're kind of, they probably aren't really similar, because Briseño is probably not going to catch.
Yeah.
But Briseño is a lot more likely to hit, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I mean, you could see something like that, but to me, it's going to be more along the fringes, dealing from their depth, which they do have solid depth. It's we talked about it last week, I think, or a couple weeks ago. It's not necessarily like elite from 5 to 15 or whatever, but it flattens out pretty good, and it's a solid plateau for a while where there's a lot of interesting names in there.
Yeah, you can get all the way down almost to 40, where you're still like, in a vague 40 tier at least. So
yeah,
and I have a solution for you for a curveball hitter.
Oh yeah,
you know the number 1 curveball hitter in AAA this year?
Who is it?
Mr. Jace Young.
Of course.
He's got a 631 xWOBA against curveballs this year.
I have to imagine Lee is probably pretty good against curveballs.
He is. He's 20th at 388
Damn it. That's what they're going to do. They're going to call one of the two of them up and call it good.
Yeah,
Damn
they're
it,
just
Scott Harris.
exclusive. Yeah, just facing Ben Brown again. I mean, Brown's curveball was really good. That was
like an Alex Lang type curveball. Yeah, like that thing's a freak pitch. Like I just want to call it a slider just because it doesn't make sense as a curveball.
Yeah. I do. Andrew, we'll talk about this too. I do love. And Max Anderson trade bait is actually a pretty good idea too. But to Brandon's point, he said there was an article in the Athletic regarding Burns' injury among the many making a strong case about long-term deals for top-tier big money pitchers, and definitely worth a discussion at some point. We can probably discuss that after we go through the farm report, because there is the Tigers could approach it like the Rays do, where if you hit the magical age of 30, you get no paid, you'll get no money.
The DiCaprio rule.
Yeah, the DiCaprio rule, the dating rule for him, essentially.
Oh no, poor Leo, take a shot.
Yeah, but come on. I mean, that it is a rule that he has. But yes, the Guardians are stupid because it's just a matter of first and foremost they knock out Lee, and I'm getting sick and tired. I know it's like it's an accident, but come on, folks.
Yeah,
come on, really, Lee, and then Patrick Lee also got nailed. Yeah. So it's ridiculous. Just come on. I mean, like he got. I think it looked like his nose broken. There was blood. It was Tiger minor league tracker. Kean was out that game down in Columbus, and he had blood coming out of his nose, and it looked pretty bad.
It looked like it hit him right between the eyes, like right at the top of the nose. I mean, like he took it square in the middle of the face.
Yeah, there was enough blood in the dirt that they had to come out and like scoop it up and replace the dirt. So it was like, just you feel for that kid, man. He was just turning it on. Like he had a really nice month of May. Third time he's been hit in the head in the last, 12 months.
Yeah,
stupid.
Yeah, it's stupid. And same thing with, and Steve mentioned too, the Whitecaps were getting beamed all week. What the hell, man?
Patrick Lee got hit in the head too.
Yeah.
They were after all the Lees.
Yeah, what the hell?
Raj, I think, saw that trend.
Yeah.
Keep your head down, Bennett.
Cleveland Cleveland's trying to play us dirty or something. I don't know. Like, all jokes aside, the Tigers the Mudhens kind of stumbled through Columbus a little bit and kind of fell down a little bit back to earth. And this week we get the chance to watch Jack Dombola. Sorry, I was thinking of the Dana Carvey.
The McLaughlin group.
Yeah, the McLaughlin group. Jack Dombola. Jack Loney? Is it
Jack Caglione?
Yeah, Jack Caglione.
Jackie Gags.
Yeah. We get to see his powerful bat. No, he's up. He's up in Kansas City. Never mind, right?
Yeah. He was off. He started like 1 for 13, but then he had a 4-hit game the other day.
Which means that the Omaha Storm Chasers are even worse than they were.
Yeah. So they're going back to having Harold Castro band cleanup again?
Yeah.
Probably. Nick Prado is still there. Is MJ Melendez still there? I haven't.
Nick Prado. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, we might see Harold, eh?
What, Dick Mountain's going to pitch against the Mudhens this week?
Ooh.
A.K.A. Rich Hill, if anybody wants to know who Dick Mountain is. There you go.
Got for Jace Young hitting those curveballs.
Yeah. The curveball going in at 67 miles an hour or something to that effect. But
curveball assassin.
Oh, yeah. But speaking of, like, just the matter of pitching, too, like I was talking about Wakil Hernandez this week, kind of coming just a bad week around the farm. But, yeah, Manning, like, here's the thing that really drives me nuts, Brandon, about Matt Manning. There's a week where he looks really good, and then the next week he's like, "The hell, man!" Like,
yeah,
his inconsistency out of the bullpen drives me nuts. Like, I maybe it's just because he's learning how to pitch, and that's why you see those kind of inconsistencies. But
yeah, for a long time we were talking about him the way we would talk about like Parker Meadows, like super long-limbed, lanky dude. Like it might just take him more time to get his coordination and stuff, but he's like 32 with a mortgage now or whatever. 27, I think. But yeah, I mean, he just never seems to build on things very much to where you like see a development. Like he'll just break out a new version of a pitch and he'll throw it for a few weeks and you'll kind of see it and occasionally it'll be good and then it's gone and he's doing something else. I don't know. I mean, I gave up a couple years ago, but he's just so frustrating because I mean we saw him pitch with legitimately nothing more than a fastball and was basically a fifth starter with that. And you can argue about like he was lucky, BABIP wise and stuff, but guys like that that's how they make their living. If you can just not give up home runs, they'll run you out there and put it on the defense to play well. But he did that, and now here we are, like trying to figure out like how to squeeze some relief work out of him. So I can't really bank on Matt Manning anymore. Not that I really have in quite a while, but even as a reliever, I just don't know. It just feels like he's going to come up and dominate one time, and then the next time he's going to get lit up, and it's going to go like that for a little while. And AJ's going to be like losing his mind, and then they'll send him back down. But
we did get a couple of questions. Drew Summers has been kind of doing very well in Toledo, and somebody, Stan, asked me if he's legit or not, and I'm honestly, the velocity's there and everything, but I don't know, like it's.
He's a big, hefty boy.
Yeah, he's a big dude. I mean, he's bigger than me, but I mean, like I think he's, I don't know, like I like to see a little more sample size, but there's some stuff that works there with him. But the velocity's there for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, almost all the relievers with the Mud Hens have enough stuff if like everything came together. I mean, this is the Tigers. They're quite good at this now. Doug Bachler seems like a good pitching coach, and they've got the whole team working with all these guys and trying to figure out how to optimize them. So, I mean, all these guys, like if everything went right, could help. It's just that there isn't really a guy that we can point to that is being like clearly like would be, right behind Vest and Canley or something. There just isn't that guy, unfortunately, right now. And like we said, Madison's, not exactly moving fast in his rehab work, and and he had room to develop still before he got injured, so that's not a big surprise. But like some guys that we had a little hope for, like Tanner Kohlhepp, blew up again, and Alex Lang hasn't gotten back on the mound yet that I'm aware. He's certainly not rehabbing yet, so I don't know if there's any kind of realistic timetable for him at all. So yeah, I mean, this is the one glaring spot where the Tigers probably need to do something. But because I don't see like a great reliever coming out until unless they do the Melton thing later on, and I wouldn't expect that until July, August. The other thing too, I mean, we talked about this I think last time, was just like maybe that's how they keep Job healthy, is they pen Job when he comes back. I don't know. Sawyer Gypsum Long, didn't look amazing his first time out, but they kind of rushed him back and he was fine. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm very excited to see kind of how he does the next couple of outings, because if they get him going and they have Olsen back, then maybe Job after the All-Star break sometime just goes back to the pen to keep his innings under wraps a little bit.
I was just looking at. I haven't looked at Summers' data before, and I was just looking at it, and he does seem like the sort of guy who they will bring up in the bullpen one day. I'm looking. Fastball averages 93 with a sinker, and it's under 5 inches of IVB.
Oh wow!
So that's a heavy sinker.
That is a bowling ball. Yeah.
And he's got 7 feet of extension.
Oh really? Oh, I hadn't noticed that.
Okay. That'll do.
They do love the extension.
Yeah, 35% whiff rate on his slider with 7 feet of extension. So yeah, I mean it's just sinker slider right now. He's thrown a handful of 4-seamers. So I don't know what he's doing against right-handed hitters, but I don't know. That's an interesting profile there.
Yeah, at least there's some stuff to work with.
So speaking of stuff to work with, the SeaWolves, it seemed like I thought they, like, going into the weekend, were going to lose the series against Richmond, but they were able to stick around. Richmond is a pain in the ass. We're the worst team in the Eastern League, but they were playing like they were like Richmond of last year, the year before. It was really weird to see. But the SeaWolves got it done, and they got contributions from the player of the week that we all saw coming, Edward Valencia, who just went 8. You know what? I mean, just the amount of, like, he was just hitting some bombs. 9 for 19, 4 home runs, 6 RBIs. And he's a guy who, Chris and I talked about him last week about his backup catcher profile. He's just been up there just doing a steady thing, and all of a sudden he's been a big contributor to the SeaWolves offense, where, you talk about Tyrone has struggled a little bit. Lazaro, 4 for 18, still seeing the power, still walking, so he's seeing the ball very well, but Campos has been kind of a slump. And so the SeaWolves have had to get a little bit of, and by the way, just because he was on the interview with me doesn't mean he struggled. He was struggling before that. So just, I just want to clear the air right there. I think maybe the fact that I told them I was going to make empanadas, which I told Greg that was going to happen, and they're going to be aiming for the end of the month now. I'll be down in Erie making food for. Actually, I'll probably make food for Andrew Graham too at some point too. Like, I'm going to make food for the whole team. Screw it, just
just make a giant empanada batch and just roll in there. You know? And then we'll blame you for whatever happens the next week. On the
If they go on a winning streak, then I want to be I want all the accolades in the world for it. But the SeaWolves bullpen continues to be the reason why they are sticking around, as they are again a game and a half up on Akron, as they made some sort of separation, because this was, I think, Chris me if I'm wrong, this was the first time they've not been tied for first place in a while, right?
It seems like Akron must have gone 2-4 or something like that. But yeah, they've been tied with Akron all this way, and then Richmond, this pesky team that's bad, but you keep seeing these like handful of players keep doing damage against them, and you look and see what their stats are, and they're like betting 180. You're like, just one of those weird things. But they still managed to win 4 out of 6, so they're in good position right now, and I think they do have the tiebreaker. So just gotta keep with it here. And Altoona, I don't think is terribly good, but sometimes they have some trouble with those guys. And they're kind of losing. They're losing arms as they go. Miller's been gone for over a month now. I think Montalvo's gone. Melton's moved up. It's just it's Ham and the boys now.
Pena's been stepping up again, doing what he's supposed to do. And I know Hayden, or at some point Hayden Minton, or no, he got called up to West Michigan. I was thinking there's Jordan Marks has been pretty solid he's been solid on the bullpen. He's a guy who's really been another example of just good bullpen work between West Michigan and Erie, like the synergy they've been having. The rotation is kind of, like I said, a little bit of a mess. And if Burhan can get back, Burhan really kind of now becomes the de facto ace, doesn't he?
He's the best results pitcher there right now. It's like him and Ham and
the most consistent.
Serwa and Pena, and I don't even know who their fifth starter is right now.
But they do have the arms to kind of hold that together, and like again this week, Anderson continues to hit, and then you got Holton, Myers, Cruz, Mendoza, and those guys, even if they're not really prospects, are very productive hitters at the AA level. So they should be able to hold their own and get this thing to the house, I would assume, against Altoona. But we're gonna have to see.
Yeah,
everybody's losing their mind right now about a Denzel Clark catch.
Oh, did he make another catch?
Apparently, it looks like a very impressive home run robbery.
Oh. Did he make a catch the other day where he crashed into the center field wall really hard? The wall hole just. That kid's good. That kid is really
wow!
Good.
He climbed the wall.
Now you know what, guys. All right, now we gotta stop. We're gonna have to stop the show for this, and then we're gonna have to. We'll have to revisit this in a second. Yeah. So let me look this up now, because now I'm curious.
Well, remember we saw him a bunch in Lansing 3 years ago, and he was one of the most exciting players there. But it was like, I don't know, is he ever going to hit?
He's framed by the rocks in center field in Anaheim too when he makes this catch, and he runs up the wall. It's definitely kind of a parkour type catch. That's pretty cool.
Parkour Meadows.
Parkour.
Was this today? You said?
Yeah, just like 5 minutes ago.
Okay.
Yeah, just
because I was looking at another catch he made, and so I just want to make sure.
I just go to Twitter, and it's probably all over your timeline.
Yeah. I'm gonna watch this without you guys or I'm gonna watch it with you guys. So get my reaction live reaction versus recording a reaction to get some sort of reaction.
There we go.
Yeah, Nolan Chanuel looks so pissed. That's great. I love that.
All right.
It has to be. He needs all the home runs he can get.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see.
Joe Adell's taking them all.
This one to center field. Denzel Clark on the move back after he stepped.
Whoa! Holy shit! Well, good Lord!
Yeah, that was pretty sick. That was sick.
You look at him. You're like, what the fuck did I do to deserve that? Pardon my language, but damn, dude.
That's pretty cruel and unusual.
By the way, I'm sorry that
the fact that he didn't go over the wall is almost just as impressive, because the momentum he had going up there, you'd think he'd just end up on the other side.
No. Put a $6 million man effect. Look at that.
That's
The
one
camera-
of the best.
So by the way, the cameraman thought this
Overrated.
was gonna be a home run. Look at the way he shot that. He was like, okay, well, screw it. I'm just gonna pan off and whoa, 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 whoa.
Oh God!
Wow.
What has happened?
Yeah.
That's spectacular. Those Canadians taking all our jobs. Um,
We're gonna tariff you, Mr. Clark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the better home run robberies I've ever seen. It reminds me of a little bit of was it Gary Matthews Jr. made a crazy
Yeah.
catch kind of like that, and then like no look backhand.
Yeah.
That's always fun. There's nothing more fun than going down a rabbit hole of like great home run robberies / great throws from the outfield.
Yeah.
Just
One of the best ways to do that is to like just talk about how one was the greatest you've ever seen, because people will
Yep.
immediately reply with like all the other best ones.
oh
Oh, that
boy.
was good, but it wasn't as good as this one. You know?
Yeah,
Man.
that was that. Look at his face right there. That is a face of disappointment,
Yeah.
and
disbelief
really
and shock.
shock. Yeah, go ahead.
The other thing going on right now is that Murray State is apparently beating Duke to get to
Oh.
Omaha.
Oh, boy.
Although the
no.
final out was called on runner interference at second base.
Oh
And it
no.
might be reversed. So we're going to see what's going on here.
We do have kind of a vested interest here.
Yeah, shout out to
Dang it.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Duke.
Sorry,
wins.
Murray State, but we're kind of Duke boys at this point. Duke baseball at least.
Yeah, we can't. I mean, that's the only time I'll root for anything Duke.
Yeah.
Is baseball. That's it. Because our
boy,
friend of the show.
Yeah, friend of the show runs the
Yeah, Catholic high school graduate, CYO downriver for life, Brian
former
Sikowski.
local superstar.
Yeah, local superstar, Brian Sikowski. Yeah, but that was catch was insane. That was that was one of the most impressive catches I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, we saw him do this a lot in Lansing. He was a beast in Lansing, and now to see him up in the big stage. But yeah, part of my language earlier, but that was damn.
Yeah, it was that kind of a catch. That's all right.
Yeah. All right, so Lake County. What the hell is up with Lake County? What is the deal with Lake County? Why do they keep winning?
They're a Cleveland team, so they're dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it a county or is it a lake? Why can't they decide?
Why are you guys a captain? You can't be a captain of a lake. There's no ocean to build.
I actually think there is a moderate explanation for it. They have like 8 lefties in their pitching staff, 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they just kind of, shut down the Whitecaps' 3 best hitters, and then or 4 best hitters, honestly, this year. So then you're relying on the righties to pick up the slack. And Stevenson had a good week, and Peck was solid, but they don't really have anybody else beyond that. It's like Luke Gold and Bennett Lee. So they just kind of got leftied to death.
Yeah, McGonigal looked human.
Yeah, that's
he still didn't strike out that much, but yeah,
he did. He had struck out 8 times this week.
Well, that's true.
No
But
walks.
that's for him. That's a ton. I know. It's a ton.
Yeah. No, like it was the most frustrated I've ever seen him. Like he was, he got called out on bad call at home a couple times. He got thrown out stealing a couple times. It was bad calls. He was just really frustrated. And I think the whole team, like they felt like they were better than Lake County, and they were letting it get to them. And like, meanwhile, their pitchers couldn't. It's Cleveland hitters, right? So they are super pesky, and then they put the ball in play, and then you got guys like Jonah Avincula going and he's got 4 home runs this year, and 3 of them came last week. It's just dumb.
Yeah, the usual dumb stuff.
Yep.
Damn you, Cleveland. Yeah, it was like game 1, they destroyed him, and it looked like Clark, McGonigal, Brasinho had 4 hits, McGonigal and Brasinho homered, and then the whole rest of the series it was rough.
Yeah, death by 1,000 cuts. That's how they officially do it.
Oh, they've overturned the game-ending call. So Duke has 1 more out.
Oh man.
Oh boy.
What's the score?
It's 5-4 in the 9th.
Oh man.
Oh boy.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. No, it's so Lake County again, 4-8 against the rest of the league this year. They're 31,
34 and
34.
11.
30, yeah, sorry, I can't do math.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah, that I don't know what it is, but as we said, still have a 5-game lead, and they're going to the team that they have to beat. So win a couple of those and celebrate. Yeah,
not to mention in a stadium where they've always had some weird, funky history there. The ball bounces weird in Lansing. I will we're going there this weekend. That's one of my favorite places to watch a game, and I'll be there Friday and Saturday, I think. And it's gonna be a great time. And of course, Jesse and Dan, all those guys out there, and also there's 2 Cuban restaurants nearby. So huzzah for that! I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, is Cobb ever gonna make it to Detroit if he can land without? Right now, he was told. Hinch mentioned that they gave him instructions not to run the first.
Yeah.
So,
what's wild is like,
let's just not, okay?
His pitches look fine.
Yeah,
they look like he's got good command. The pitches are moving the way they're supposed to. He just looks like he's got 0 hips. He just looks like he's in pain, and it's a bummer because, like I said, the pitching is solid, but so who knows what's going to happen? They may just be trying this, and once they run him out there for 4 or 5 times or however long, you can go with a rehab and just determine that he can't play, and then they kind of file some sort of insurance claim, and there you go.
Yeah, medical retirement might come at that point. But yeah, I mean, I guess you kind of have to try everything, but it's just bizarre because he is throwing the ball well. He looks fine, but then every time he goes to walk around the mound, he's limping. So I don't know. That's beyond my expertise. I'm not really sure medically how you can pitch with those hips, but he's kind of managing it.
Yeah, Murray State won for real.
Murray State did win. Yeah.
Yep.
Damn.
Murray State, are they the Vikings?
The Racers.
The Racers. That's right. Yeah, that's right. They have a cool name. The Racers. That's right. Well, that's a big upset there. Huge upset. Yeah, they played the WAC. Was it the not WAC, but the SWAC or?
I don't even know where Murray State is located. Is it Florida?
No, they're in Kentucky.
Oh, all right.
They play in the Kensington. I think it's the Kensington Valley. I think it's Let me see what conference they play in. Now
can't be Kensington Valley. That's where I live.
Ohio Valley.
Ohio Valley. Okay, thank you. All right, so it was some sort of valley. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So they have the
that's huge.
Racer Nation. So it's their logo is essentially the Kentucky Derby. It's a horseshoe with a horse running in the middle of it. So it's not racers like NASCAR. It's because you're thinking South. Sometimes you might think that, but either way, the Murray State Racers upset the Duke Blue Devils on the road too. That's at Duke. That's a tough place to play. So
Duke has never made it to Omaha. That's the first time they've ever hosted a regional or super regional.
Oh wow!
Yeah, Murray State gets them.
Yeah, you know what? And the Racers just a couple weeks ago won their first NCAA game since 1979.
Dang.
Wow, postseason game. That's great.
Yeah, postseason game. They beat Ole Miss.
Huh.
Yeah, in the first round.
And
that was also on the road too. So they've been doing this on the road.
Yeah.
So they tied the 79 team with their 40th win, and so.
Congrats to them. I mean, to do that on the road is pretty good.
Yeah, that's saying something too. So props to them on that. They also beat Georgia Tech as well, they beat Georgia Tech too. So they beat Georgia Tech and Mississippi to get to this point. So props to them on that. That's impressive. Yeah, Ohio Valley. Sorry, there's so many damn Valley conferences. So we got that all straightened out now. So.
Who I wanted to mention again was since Emily posted that video of his pitch grips and stuff, is that Micah Ashman continues to just roll. So he's a guy who might be a little interesting to see if they move him up to Erie here fairly soon and see what he can do there. Not in terms of him coming to help the Tigers this year, but just that's a weird fastball. It just is.
Yeah.
No, props to Emily too. She's doing one. So she asked Andrew Sears to do one, but he doesn't really want to be on camera. So she's doing one via.
That's why he pitches so damn fast. He's trying to get out of there. He doesn't like that camera on him.
He is doing one with her, doing photos and video, video and photos, and doing kind of like a transcript kind of version to it. So, at least he wants to do it. So there's more players that want to go open up, and I'm looking forward to. We need to go up there and get some video ourselves and talk to these guys about grips, because that was the same thing when we were talking to Herder a couple of years ago, and we need to go up there and do that. Yeah. But Clark, by the way, we're not going to ignore Max Clark struggling since May 15th, but
he's still walking, but the hits aren't falling for him.
Yeah, it hasn't been as much hard contact either. I mean, it's not just batted ball luck. He hasn't really been driving the ball that much. So.
Yeah,
but again, I mean that might play into what Chris brought up about them having a lot of lefties, at least just in the past week. a lot of these guys haven't seen a ton of good left-handed pitching, and that's like one of the big changes when you move up to Double-A. So,
I also think Clark may have kind of fallen in love with being super patient, if that makes any sense. Like
a little
it
too
seems like
passive.
every plate appearance he gets to a 3-1, 3-2 count,
Mhm.
and it's like there's got to be first pitches that he can pick on and drive. It just seems like he's not attacking early in the counts right now.
Well, and this kind of goes back to like the whole general topic of like being interested in how the different affiliates are doing, like as teams themselves, not just the prospects. Like
Mhm.
the Tigers want them to win, and they want them to play winning baseball. That's clearly important to the Tigers. They want to get these guys like that team building experience. They want to get them like playing, big games for whatever level they're at. And that can affect the way you develop players. I mean, if Max Clark Max Clark does profile to be a leadoff hitter, and that's all well and good, but you don't want him to necessarily like hit like he's, Jock Jones or something, trying to, just spray singles and drop down bunts and stuff like that. That's not necessarily how you want him to develop as a hitter. That may be how you want him to hit when he gets to the major leagues if power doesn't come along that well. So I don't know. It's just it's just kind of interesting. When we all started covering the farm system, that we kind of mocked them a little bit for like, well, we just got to get out there and win today's game, and obviously things have radically changed. But it is interesting that they've come back around to like really believing in those team building concepts as well, but just doing everything else way better than they did under Littlefield. So it's kind of interesting. I do kind of wonder, like, what impact that has on their development. Like, do they wait until Max Clark is, at Double-A or Triple-A before they really start like urging him to turn on the ball more and try to hit some dingers and work on that? Or is that something they just kind of will just sort of let play out and see if it happens naturally? And for the time being are perfectly content to have him, try to hit like Seth Stevenson kind of does, I don't know. It's kind of an interesting topic.
No, and especially too, a guy like Peyton Graham is out. A lot of guys like Peyton Graham that kind of come in a little bit. He's healthy. I know it's been good to see. He's been turning on the ball better, and along with Pacheco, slightly cooled off a little bit, but still, I mean, he's still walking. I mean, he's still going. Yeah, he's got 8 walks, 10 strikeouts for the week.
Yeah, that was kind of a funny stat line there. Like 18 strikeouts and walks together.
Yeah,
that's like, yeah. Well,
You've seen a lot of pitches.
And then a couple doubles.
Yeah.
And there was, what I saw one of his doubles was exactly what you want to see. He got up in a 3-1 count and just let it rip and smacked a double off the left center wall. It's like, all right, that'll work.
Yeah,
let it rip. Yeah, there's
and it has been a really good year for him, and obviously he's younger. Peyton Graham has to do way more than this, to like even convince you he's a prospect again, and just because of his age and because he's been at high A so long. But Pacheco's been fairly impressive, and maybe there's something there.
There's Emily also wanted to mention too. She was going to talk to Laquira about doing a video on his changeup.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
He does have a great name. I like to say that when I type in.
Yeah, that's I can't.
Carlos Lequerica.
Sounds like it sounds like a 90s Chevrolet. The 1991 Chevrolet
LeSabre? No, the Lequerica.
Not the Lumina or not the Celebrity, not the 1987 Celebrity. That's another.
He's a famous Picasso painting.
Yeah. Well known by Richard Gouache, no doubt.
Dick Wash.
Oh man.
So Dick Wash. So we got squashed.
Our new tactical. Yeah, you can pick up Tigers minor league reports. New tactical. Our new product placement.
Dick Wash. All right. Let's go back because I guess they'll distracted by Gouache. Bryce Rayner out for the year, torn shoulder, same injury that Carson Rucker had, and so Mark Rush mentioned that we should talk to Carson Rucker again. But if you go to our interview we did with him 2 years ago, we can definitely pinpoint that he's going to have shoulder surgery, unlike Cole Keith, who did not have surgery, and I think that he's enough time to heal, and the reason why I mentioned that, like guys like Montilla and others that can really kind of see what else they have in the system, because I don't think it's going to necessarily affect them in the draft too much per se, but at the same time, you look at guys like Jude Warwick. When is he going to come up? And on a complex league and what have you. So that the trickle down effect is that, and so, but Lakeland split the series against Daytona this week, and they go in the first place, 2 games up. They pick on Palm Beach, as Chris pointed out there. Boo. And,
and I was corrected that yes, they do have video this year, so that's good.
Oh, okay, good.
So we'll be able to see if they can. And I don't know if I feel like in the past, like the first half has ended halfway through the series, like 3 games in, like Thursday.
That's what I thought. That's why I was thinking like, it was the 26th for all of them, because that's like right in the middle of 2 series from now.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm not sure. So we'll find out. We'll have to listen to the announcers. But it was Daytona. I don't think is terribly good, but they just kept jumping out to early leads, and a couple times Lakeland fought back and was able to win. Including the game where Rayner got hurt. It was a walk-off win. It was the biggest bummer of a walk-off win that I remember. It was like,
I'm sure the air kind of went out of the place a little bit over the past week for sure. But
like, good for you guys, I guess. But there's still a lot of talent on that team, and it'd be cool to see them make a playoffs, because that will be like just like last year. The guys we saw at the very end of the year were kind of a mix of kind of recent draft picks and complex league kids who came up, and it'll be fun to see. It'd probably be like Enrique Jimenez there, and who knows, maybe it's Warwick, and just a good look at those guys getting some real meaningful games at the end of the year. So these guys are just trying to like pay it forward.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yep. Like the guys who didn't have anything to do with it will get to play in the postseason, hopefully.
Yep.
Yeah, so, I mean, Gabriel Reyes kind of doing the same thing. Rayner Castillo too. Like the two of them, just nothing popping. Both of them a little bit down. Reyes, I thought, pitched good. I watched that whole outing. I like Reyes a lot. I'm still kind of interested, but nothing happening, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened to him. It's just a matter of, was he out of shape or what have you?
Minor injury. Yeah,
minor injury. By the way, somebody asked about books for Charles. Asked Brandon in particular, a teenager, about baseball, and I was going to recommend Painting the Black, which came out in 1997. That's a good book. That was a book I read when I was a kid, and that really kind of helped. I would recommend that book.
I guess the question is, we talking like instructional or like to learn about the game? I don't know. Like some recent fun ones were like the MVP machine. The only rule is that it has to work, which is where like 2 baseball prospectus guys like Ben Lindbergh and Sam, the other guy, I can't remember his name, but basically they take over like an independent ball league team, Sam Miller, and they try to put like all the most modern sabermetric principles in place, and they get like StatCast set up for it and the whole thing. And just like the back and forth about how that works with these indie ball guys who are, kind of beer league players who, played in college and stuff like that. That whole book is kind of fun. Big Data Baseball is interesting, but you can go back to like, some of the older classics. You could read $sign and the Muscle, the early scouting classic, or Future Value, which is the book Kylie McDaniel and Eric Longenhagen wrote together, which kind of really is like the best book on like how players are evaluated now, even though things are still changing so fast that it's a couple years out of date now. Still really interesting, engaging read as to like what teams are looking for and how they go about, kind of like drafting and developing for specific tools and stuff. Pretty good.
Did you mention Ball 4?
No, Ball 4 is always.
I was gonna say Ball 4 would be a good one. I also recommend the Cooperstown Casebook. Yeah, I do have the Future Value book myself. The Wizardry too, about the some infield, like some of the best defensive players out there, is really good one too. So I got the whole
Moneyball, of course, is always a good one. It's I like the Moneyball movie, but it doesn't represent the book that well because it's Hollywood. It's like it ignores the fact like Barry Zito doesn't exist and things like that.
Yeah. The Year of the Pitcher, I would also recommend for anybody that's a Tiger fan or just a baseball fan in general. The Year of the Pitcher that has Danny McClain and Bob Gibson. That's a really good book too. But honestly, like this is a good one too. That has Lou Whitaker in here too. But shout out to Jay Jaffe, who we've had on the podcast once.
Jay Jaffe's a good one.
Although it's funny when you read the back of it now, you can tell the advanced praise for Cooperstown Casebook, With the Cooperstown Casebook, Jay Jaffe has given us a definitive guide to the greatest players in baseball history and the Hall of Fame. Smart, a lot of fun. The book reads like someone's Bill James' fine work, which is the highest compliment a seam head who grew up as Bill James can offer. Guess who said that quote? Jonah Carey. Jonah Carey.
Oh, Jonah Carey. Man.
There's also
God, I like Jonah. What a disaster that was.
I think possibly the first baseball book I ever wrote or read has a familiar name to one of our hosts here tonight. Bless You Boys, the 1984 Sparky Anderson book, where they go through every game.
That's
not every game, but like the first, 150 games, and it's just interesting to see it from the manager's perspective.
Yeah, that is a great book for Tigers, like young Tigers fans, to kind of understand like the history and the last 41 years of suffering that slowly being alleviated. I also throw out the glory of their times, which is like about like kind of old timey baseball and kind of like through their own sort of words, like what baseball was like in the early days and in the dead ball era and stuff like that. That's kind of an interesting one if this young person is interested in history at all. As not, as all young people are super big history readers. But if he is that type, if that is something he'd like to know about, like how the game got started and like the origins of things, that's a good one.
No, the reason why I was trying to
Science of Hitting, Ted Williams.
That's a good book too. The reason why I was making if you're mentioning like the Painting the Black is for fiction purposes too. Like I like a good story too. Like don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with like having books like the historical side of things, but the reason why I like some of the fictional books, like one of my favorite books growing up, as a young person, was Baseball Fever by about the guy who was a big Mets fan and his dad was a chess master. He couldn't understand where those guys could meet halfway. I mean, then again, also one of my favorite books also growing up was also Super Fudge. So it's
Super Fudge.
Yeah, Super. I'm showing my age there, but getting back to the final season. That book sounds familiar. Why does it sound familiar?
Is that the final season about Comerica's last year?
Yeah, I think it might be the case.
Damn, there was a great book about baseball in the Dominican. This is just totally random. I'm just throwing books out. I want to say it was like the Eastern Stars or something like that. I don't know. All right, keep going.
There's also I have a Cuban history. I have the history of Cuban baseball behind me too, and that's a book that any of the Ernie Harwell books are really good too. So I would recommend that. Unlike Mitch Albom books where they come in big print or small print and you pay $30 for them and you get like maybe half the book. Anyway, so we talked about Pennington a little bit.
You got the pitch.
The pitcher, or you have a player position pitching or positional player pitching.
Yeah, hit a couple home runs last week, and then was touching 86 on the mound.
Yeah,
lots of spin and ride.
Yeah,
it was like, what he got more whiffs than the starter in that game, RJ Sales.
That's funny. It's kind of like McKinstry pitching last year, where he was like 38, 42, and then just dialed up 85 out of nowhere. Someone asked, what was the other one? Would Howie Lee or someone like Max Anderson move the needle enough for a decent middle reliever that gets more Ks? Maybe. Those are tricky to decide because it just depends on what the other team likes. If you could sell them on Max Anderson and get a good reliever, hopefully that has a little bit of team control. Like the other thing about Harris to remember too is he's not going to want guys who don't have options. He's going to try like hell to get guys who have an option, if possible. So I don't, maybe he'll rent someone and surprise me, but that doesn't really seem like his MO either. He's going to want someone who can control for a couple of years at least. But Howie Lee, Max Anderson, if either one of those guys is going good or Max Anderson's still going good at the deadline, there might be a team that's like, oh yeah, we really like that guy. And the Tigers don't really need either one of those guys. They don't need Fran Yerber-Montilla. They don't need, they don't necessarily need Lorenzo and Briseño both. But then you're getting into another tier player.
By the way, I also recommend this book by Roger Yoder, who we've had on the pod. It's all facts. All like you want to know everything about Tiger history. Bam. It's also got some really cool pictures in there too. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I plugged his book because, also because he's a fellow Roger. Technically,
there you go. All Rogers.
Roger game.
Just think back last year to what the Tigers got for Andrew Chafin. That was they dealt a middle reliever on an expiring, or he had a possibly another year, so there's a little bit more value. They got Joseph Montalvo and Chase Lee, so an interesting kind of starting pitcher arm in high A, and
Hicks, who's now a servable catcher for the Marlins.
Well, Hicks was the Carson Kelly deal.
Yeah, but still, I mean, like,
Hicks and Owens came in that deal, and then Chase Lee and Montalvo came. So, but you're basically,
reverse engineer those deals, and you kind of have an idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, and let's click things off of the FCL and the Dominican leagues, and like you just mentioned earlier, Zach McDonald's back too. That's a
Yeah, he's been on concussion protocol all this time.
Really? That was concussion protocol?
Yeah.
Wow, I did not know that.
Damn. I didn't know that either.
But the guy that you should be paying attention to outside of Chris Rodriguez, which we'll show some video here in a second, is Johan Cobra. Yeah, this guy is going to be we'll see here. But no, as far as is Chris Rodriguez going to skip the FCL? I don't think so. I don't think there's been one. There's not been very many Tiger prospects that have skipped the FCL from the Dominican Summer League.
And it doesn't matter so much, right? It's like when he comes. It's just when he gets here. Like he'll move as fast as he moves at that point. But
I think Christian Santana did, but that may have been because of COVID. I'm trying to think. No, he played a couple. Yeah, I think he came straight to low A from the DSL and then played a couple games in the complex, but was mostly in low A. And he hit 215.
Oh, yeah.
The thing with Rodriguez is I mean, the thing that's nice to see, right, is what he did today was kind of spectacular. He's facing Kevin York. Well, I forget his name, but he was one of the biggest pitchers. I think
or something. Yeah,
I think he got the biggest bonus for any pitcher in this class, and he throws triple digits. He threw 98, and Chris Rodriguez hit it 108 for a double. And then the next at bat, he threw 99, and Rodriguez hit it 109 for a home run as a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
So what you heard about him is true.
Yeah.
The
power speed is there, and the power. Yeah.
The power is absolutely legit. He also then got struck out by a pitcher just throwing absolute junk. He was like a 91 mile an hour fastball and a 73 mile an hour frisbee slider from the left side and struck him out. And then he got a single later in the game. And he's an average to above average runner. And probably is going to be a solid outfielder. So the main thing with him is plate discipline, basically, in the hit tool. So here you are.
Is he going to be able to adapt to better pitching? But it's pretty good if you can hit the fastball at that velocity right now already.
Yeah, I mean that's hard. Well,
Kevin DeFrank. Sorry.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. The comparison I was making, he's 17. He's the age of a high school junior, basically. So you compare him to the kids in the 2026 high school class.
Yeah.
And if a kid in that class was showing this kind of power, he'd probably be, they'd be drilling down a ton on him and making sure like everything else. But he'd be getting some conversation as a top 15 pick. So,
man, that was a nuke. Yeah, I mean he's played 6 games and he's got 5 doubles and 2 homers already. So.
He's really spanking the ball, so that's nice to see. It's also like 1 walk and 5 or 6 strikeouts, right? So it's and I don't necessarily walks and strikeouts can get really funky down in the DSL. You don't want to see a lot of strikeouts, but guys who walk a ton, like if you watch those games for any length of time, there are like 2 pitchers in every game who could kind of throw strikes. Everybody else, it's like every other pitch is a wild pitch or a ball in the dirt or 4 feet outside. These are very young arms. So, doing that kind of damage with a limited amount of strikes is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, we've gotten some grief before. How come you guys not in prospect list? We haven't seen them until recently. I mean, now you can, I just don't, I don't I don't feel comfortable going off somebody like MLB Pipeline is respectable. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But I want to see something from my own eyes. If that's a crime, so be it. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, we all read, everybody else's stuff to some degree, at least the national people. We'll see Baseball America scouting reports on people and stuff like that. But if I don't have anything to add, I'm probably not going to put you on our list, especially. You guys are obviously like fully minor league focused. You have a whole team kind of paying attention to that. So I don't really even bother with the complex league that much. I just post the stats because it's just hard to do it. You can't do everything, or at least I can't by myself. So, Yeah, I don't usually bother. That's why, like I wasn't interested in bothering with Salcedo, this spring or anything like that. It's like, well, I'll see him when I see him. There's plenty of time. If Javier Osorio just wrecks his way all the way through, through Lakeland, cool. But I wasn't going to put him anywhere yet.
Yeah, Jesus Pinto is a guy that's really interesting me. He got hurt this week. I think he hit a double and then had to come out of the game, so you don't really know exactly what happened there. We get every other week we get a game that's broadcast in the FCL, which is a bummer because we're getting 90% of the DSL games now. But it's tough to tell. But when we do get to see them, it's usually the same guys performing. It's Enrique Jimenez, it's Jude Warwick, it's Osorio, and the pitchers. Eddie Felix has been pitching really well. We saw him once, and I wasn't blown away by him, but I wasn't blown away by Omari Daniel either, and he's hasn't given up any hits and strikes out everybody. So, it's been looking good down there. So,
yep.
And they fell a couple of games behind the Blue Jays, I think, and they're back tied with them. So they just more winning.
Jank Diaz still pitching pretty well.
Yeah. I do have his last outing that I need to cut up and put up. He got hit around a little bit, but it's still nice to see what he's throwing.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, another great name that came up here, Frenny Grandy.
Frenny Grant. It may be a typo on my part there.
Oh, okay.
Frenny Grant.
That's still a great name.
He's a lefty. They have is it Anderson Diaz, I think is their top left-handed pitcher that they got in this class, and you see it with him. He's 17, I think, and he's touching 95. But boy, does he not know where the ball's going. It's kind of hilarious.
Very wild thing going on.
Yeah.
Oh, and Orozco has done really well.
Yeah, and he's been, he's a guy that was kind of, was it 2-3 years ago? He was it the same class as Miranda? I don't remember, but he was another guy who kind of made those lists of I don't know, the top 50 international or top 50 bonuses or whatever. So he had a little bit of weight behind his name, and he's moved to the outfield permanently, which they needed, and he's been playing well.
Yeah, striking out a lot, so that's a concern at that level, obviously. But we'll see.
And that's Christian Perez hit 3 home runs. He's got 3 home runs in his first 3 games. Although I think the next game he didn't do anything. But
so the name that stands out to me in the FCL that I haven't seen in a while, I totally forgot about him, was this guy right here,
Brady Sakonik.
The guy next to Tanner.
Thomas Zapucki.
Zapucki,
He was rehabbing down there. He was another one of those random, ghosts from Scott Harris's past. I think they got him in a 4-player deal for Darren Ruff.
Oh, really?
Does that sound right?
Wow.
And
when he was with the Giants. Yeah.
Yeah, and they they sent him to the Mets, and who else? They got in that decent third baseman. But Zapucki was a guy who always had a lot of promise, but he's just been hurt with everything you can imagine. He's had thoracic outlet surgery. He's had ulnar nerve transposition surgery. He's had, I think, Tommy John. He's had everything. But he's still trying to pitch. And when he was healthy, he was good. So that's just another sneaky arm that they kind of stashed. And we'll probably see him up in West Michigan and Lakeland before too long. If he,
you got to love having a president of baseball ops who has random favorites from guys who've never done anything because he's an absolute prospect honk as well. So you'd have to kind of love that about him.
No, I do. And I'm just saying, it's weird when you see him around the stadium sometimes, and he's just with his backpack, "Oh, are you guys gonna watch the game?" Yeah, it's really, I don't know, it's the times you see Scott Harris around the ballpark is literally him going from
Scott Harris feels like how any of us would manage the team. We just out of our laptop, just walking around.
He's got his backpack. He's got his JanSport backpack, just sitting there going, "Hey, I'm going to the, whatever." And same thing with Ryan Garco. Every time I've seen Garco, like I said, it was still one of the coolest moments was walking in Lansing going up to the stairs, going to the back. I think I was getting something to eat. All of a sudden, here, "Hey, Rogelio," and I thought it was Chris because that was the last person. But
I was there.
You were. Yeah, you were there.
Yeah, I was there. And you went up and then you're like, "Garco just said hello to me." I was like, "Oh, sweet."
Him and his entourage, they're just taking over the section. They're just sitting there watching the game with his scouting crew, and it was it marked the first time also that I remember seeing Tiger extensively because remember the first 2 years we went, Chris, we never saw anybody. I mean, outside of like,
I do remember one particularly disgruntled bald scout who would show up for like 5 innings and then leave, and I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure he was with the Tigers.
Then we saw Littlefield every once in a while with a leather jacket,
Yeah.
like running around West Michigan,
Yeah,
but I
we
never
saw
saw
it.
him anywhere else.
I thought we saw Littlefield in Erie once, but I don't know.
Oh no, yeah, you're right. We did see him. It was the first time. I think it was one of the first times we went out there too. I think. Yeah. So
Anyway.
yeah.
So how hard does a freshman in high school have to throw before people start taking notice for possible scholarships or maybe a chance of prospect to draft? I would think if you're a freshman and you're throwing like mid 80s, then some people are gonna, but it's still a lot of it has to do with projection too. Like they can see, they look at you and see arm speed and projection. Then
if you're a 6'4" basketball player and you just happen to go try out and you throw 80, there might be someone who's like, oh, hell yeah, that could work.
Yeah.
It just depends on what kind of school you're aiming for. Small school coaches are, scraping everywhere they can for just athletes, like just athletic guys that they can, they've played some baseball and can be worked with. Whereas, if you're trying to get to Wake Forest, they might not be so keen on any freshman until they really see some crazy stuff.
And honestly, they're you have to throw hard to succeed in baseball now, but there are a lot of other traits that that teams will pick up on. And like, even if you don't necessarily throw it really hard, if you do something interesting with your fastball, you might get a college scholarship.
If you happen to have good extension, if they can tell that you spin the ball, for the speed you're throwing it well, you don't have to throw it. You're not going to rip 3,000 RPMs, with a 75 mile per hour curveball. Mm-hmm. But if you've got 22, 23, and then it gets to like, some teams will even like look at your hand shape. They're looking at your feet. Like, how big is this kid going to get? What are his hands shaped like? What does his release look like? It just depends. Some teams are super, super deep into all that stuff, and other teams are more like just using the eye test still.
He's a freshman topping out at 84 instead of 81, 82 as a freshman.
Is he a 14-year-old freshman, or is he one of those 16-year-old freshmen? Either way, no, that's pretty good. That will get you noticed, and that's when the scouts will dig in and see all that other stuff.
Do your homework.
Two of the more interesting high school
pitchers. Say ma'am and sir.
Yeah.
Say please. Yeah. Use your manners.
I'm trying to find it. There are two of the more interesting high school pitchers in this draft are actually in Michigan. One of the biggest up arrow names is a kid named Uli Fernsler from Novi, who's a lefty who's super young. But he doesn't throw much harder than like 89, 90, but he throws a ton of strikes. He's got feel for 3 pitches, and they think he's, will eventually throw harder. So he's gotten upped into like possible sandwich round conversation.
And obviously righty lefty matters. If you're lefty and you throw low 80s, you might have everybody all over you anyway if they like something else.
Well, case in point too, like it's like for example, my niece right now is going into 7th grade. She's throwing about 60 miles an hour in softball, and so she's starting to actually.
It's crazy.
My brother's actually thinking about college recruiting now for the first time. Like it's an actual part of the conversation because the pitching coach is like, my knee, and I'm not even saying this as like a humble brag or anything, but it is cool because the Castillo name lives on.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. Is she the one who power lifts too?
No, that's my other niece. No, that's okay. She's at Troy.
If that was a combo, I'd be like, man, somebody's gonna lock that girl up. That's
my other niece. My sister will love the shout out to my sister bragging her about this. Mariana is getting recruited by a couple of Big Ten schools right now, but she power lifted a total of 800 pounds this year. 800 pounds. Wow. Like I just, props to her and my niece too. My niece Cece is also doing pretty well. She's a good lacrosse goalie, but Mariana can golf and power lift.
Oh, wow.
And she's varsity golf and varsity lifting. So
that's quite the combo right there.
Yeah.
It's youth sports is just so insane. It's just insane to me as a old man now. My niece, does like all this National Travel League volleyball, like she's been out there where like Miggy's daughter is at these games and everything. And Miggy's at some of these games. And I mean, it's just chaos. Like the amount of like pressure and like all the boxes you have to check both like in your schoolwork, your extracurricular.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like,
there's an app too.
Oh yeah.
There's a scorekeeper. I think it's scorekeeper app where like, for example, my brother sent me my nephew had a game winning hit this weekend. on a Saturday game, and they had it all on camera and everything. And I'm just in. I did the gathering crowds for him, but the gathering crowds music behind the hit, and so he could have his little moment. But I'm just like, man, you know what? Fuck, like we didn't get shit like that when we were younger, man. Like this is where I'm having the old man moments. They're going, I would love to have the only home run I ever had on video. Like, we'd love to have it just once, just to see how cool it was. Or the time that I struck out the side in like garbage relief. And because like they knew I could throw strikes, but I was such a crap pitcher. I'm not gonna lie.
I have a couple like that, but the one I want back is this changeup I threw to this kid who hit a flare down the right field line, and it dropped slightly fair because our half-assed right fielder just like lost it, dropped in, runs tied the league championship game. I had come in the 8th in relief, pitched perfectly. And this kid dropped the ball. I just need to see it for myself because I'm like, I know that was a good pitch.
Yeah, no,
that's the kind of thing that still sticks with me. But anyway,
yeah, same thing. Like the home run was like literally the hardest ball I ever hit in baseball in my life until I started playing softball. But anyway, not there. But go ahead, Chris.
Like we die, and God's like, okay, well, you can see anything from your life, and I want to know what happened with that kid. Why did he drop that ball? God's like, that's what you've been wondering about all this time. Like, it haunts me.
Corey asked who was the other prep Michigan pitcher in the draft this year. I forgot about Blake Ilitch, who was an Ilitch relative, and who knows what's going on there. But the guy I'm talking about is Luke LaCourse, who is he's from up by Saginaw. He's considered like the spin king of this draft. His fastball like averages 2,600 RPMs, and he's throwing like legitimate 3,400, 3,500 breaking balls.
Oh wow!
Holy crap!
And he's a big, strong kid who's like already 6'3", 240 or something like that, and committed. He's committed to MSU. So I don't know if there's like some other issues. I shouldn't say it like that. Like he's not committed to like an SEC or ACC team, right? Maybe he just wants to stay close to home, but he is a very interesting pitcher with some of that stuff. So.
The big, I mean that area alone right there is a lot of really good pitchers that have been coming out of there. Like between this in the Saginaw Valley area, that has been kind of like a little bit of a hotbed of pitchers that have been drafted or just coming every once in a while. He's from his alma mater at Bay City Western. There you go. That's a beautiful looking school too. If you ever get a chance to drive up there. So, I will say that we'll be doing a preview of the draft coming up. So there's more draft content. Ashley wrote a really good piece, but we're going to get in the nitty gritty of the draft coming up because we have the draft show coming up next month. And we will definitely be doing more draft content. So probably podcasts like this, mini podcast we've been doing, like we did the breakdown of our top 39. We'll probably be doing some articles as well as I'm going to start getting in the draft mode, which means I literally going to, excuse me a moment.
Well, Roger's reaching there. Well, let's see what he's got. Oh, he's got.
Oh, draft.
Yeah, he's got his night vision goggles for some reason.
No, these are my Ghostbusters glasses, but this is draft vision. These are my draft vision glasses, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus more on the draft time around. And I know that it's not sexy picking in the 20s, Steve, but at the same time, we have two picks back to back.
It might be more interesting in some ways, yeah.
No, in this year's draft, it's kind of a great place to be. This is a draft where, the top of the draft is not. Nobody really knows who's going in the top 5 or 6. Some guys have separated themselves as usual, but in the mid 20s and the early 30s, I guess mid 30s as well. The Tigers have two of the top 35 picks. Yeah. I mean, they got McGonigal at like the 37th pick, right? Like you can get guys who are very good in this range for whatever reason. Yeah. And there's some solid. This year's draft is mostly interesting college or high school infielders and some interesting college arms. And then a little farther down there may be some high school arms, but it's not a great year for college bats. So I don't know. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
And obviously, and Nayans and De Bruyne coming up and stuff, but I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if there's the nephew of was it Fielder? Is it was it the kid out of California, the right-handed outfielder that has been with the power? He's
Holiday? No,
not Holiday. I think it's
Dimitri Young's
Dimitri
nephew.
Young, his nephew. Yeah, I know his last swing and miss stuff, but I don't know. I don't even know how this.
Quentin Young, yeah. No,
Quentin Young.
There's a lot of James Wood in him.
Yeah,
that's not
necessarily a bad thing.
No, I mean that would be amazing. But you do still feel like James Wood is kind of a unicorn there. Like Jordan Walker was supposed to be like that, and he's kind of been meh. Yeah. Anytime you get these big, tall guys who hit for a ton of power but have some swing and miss issues, you worry that that's gonna take them out and before they even get to higher levels of minors. But the scouts are better and better than ever, and so I don't know if they like them. I would feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, at least like the way the draft is setting up, like you'd always like to draft higher. You'd always like to have a bigger bonus pool, but this does kind of play to the Tigers' strengths from what we've seen the last couple of years. So hopefully, they can do really well with the top 2 picks, and then they'll probably do their usual thing and try to spread the pool as far and wide to high schoolers as possible, and pick up a couple of college pitchers and whatever.
Yeah, they're going to scout the Northeast well. That's what they're going to do. They're going to get a couple guys out of the Northeast, and so we can start looking at that area or California. California's been they've really hitting California pretty well. I'm sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
Oh no, I just we talked about it. I think last show or whatever is that Brandon had a great quote there. They're scouting and they're scouring. They really are. Like 2 of the most enjoyable players we've talked about this year are just not enjoyable, but like really fun to talk about are their 12th and 13th round pick from last year in Jude Warwick and Lucas Elisalt. And who knows if anything will come of them, but they're a hell of a lot better than the 12th and 13th round picks they used to get.
Yeah. I mean, like a guy
better than a lot of the 5th round picks they used to get.
I was just going to say, even a guy like Andrew Sears is fascinating to me, but Sears, Jackson Strong.
He's got a 1.3 ERA since May.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but Mekhi Ashman is another guy too, where it's like it's just literally these.
Jake Miller.
11th or 12th round in the past was just like, you know what, that draft was that pick was automatically gonna be never gonna go past West Michigan. You automatically knew that going in. Now, however, they get to West Michigan. Oh well, shoot, they're gonna be going to Erie at some point. But yeah, so
Avila drafted Jake Miller. Damn it.
Yeah, that was the Chase Young draft, I think, right? The Melton, but
22. Not that they were terrible at it. Yeah.
All right, we'll get our draft glasses going, or goggles, or in this case, these Ghostbusters things that I keep over here, and we'll be getting ready for the draft coming up on July 12th. As just coverage going on galore. We'll be having some. Right now, I'm working on the West Michigan video, kind of like, I love Secret Base. It's one of my favorite YouTube channels out there, and I want to do something like that, and I've been heeing and hawing about it, but I think I'm going to start putting the video together. So the 2021 West Michigan recap video, which is, like I said, under wraps still, but it's just basically the core of the Tigers team you see now and the putting together. So it's cool to see something like that because we've never experienced that before. So that'll be on the way out here for everybody who's been contributing to the Patreon. Thank you so much. We've got a couple of donations. The donations from last week, thank you. You go to GoFundMe. That goes a long way. That'll be definitely helping us out. Go to Lansing this week and beyond, including us going to Erie at the end of the month. Brandon, what do you got going on that you want to plug?
I'm just going to try to investigate that Tigers curveball issue and try to figure out what traits are causing a little bit of the slump. But that's about it. Nothing terribly fancy. We're just kind of riding it out. I sort of don't have anything ambitious right now because I'm just sort of I feel like almost everything we're doing is not just nitpicking, but really trying to find something wrong, and right now I'm just going to kind of ride it and enjoy it. And just, I'm probably going to write something about Keith needing to pull the goddamn ball more, but that's kind of obvious too. I'm not sure that's going to be a real long one. So otherwise just the usual coverage for the most part.
Yeah. Nice. And, same thing. We have to kind of be this way. We have to be picky. We have to look at these things because as much as I'm enjoying it, I'm enjoying the fact that we have 4 teams in the minor leagues that are in first place. Be that as it may, you always have to make sure that you just kind of call things the way you see them. So,
and we're used to trying to solve problems the whole time we've been covering the system. There were lots and lots of problems to investigate, and now it feels like we're down to just a couple. So you got to keep looking. You got to keep scratching away.
Especially because when I write an article now, people are like, "Well, the obvious." It's like, no. Read the article. Secondly, There's a little more to it. There's subtle nuances that just going, well, Bryce Winters, it's an automatic conclusion he's going to be West Michigan. Well, how do you know? I mean, is that, there could be complications from something. I don't know. But
it's just how it goes right now, too. Yeah. There's just, the Tigers are playing well and they're popular. So people who are paying attention, who haven't paid any attention and don't, necessarily know that much about what they're talking about. Yeah. There's just a little bit more noise than there used to be. And that's, that's a good thing. That just means the game is good. So that's
right. Cool. I mean, honestly, like hey, look, more people, the better. But at the same time, I also,
gotta check them too.
Yeah. I don't want to do any gatekeeping, but I'm also like at the same time going, oh man, you're bitching about Montero. Shut up. Yeah. But I got, I just gotta deep breath and go, everybody, I can't do it. I can't be a hypocrite because I don't like when people gatekeep me at all. I don't like that. I hate that. I hate people when they're just trying to be like baseball lords and the last thing we want. So thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. If you're listening at home on the podcast side of things, we'll give you 2 full hours of content this evening. It's almost 1:45 here. In terms of we cranked out a full show. Yeah, no, I was gonna say I'm like,
it's like damn. Yeah, Roger's in England. I had no idea.
Yeah,
I'm flying to Minneapolis tomorrow. Flight leaves at 9. I'm there for 2 hours, and I fly home.
Oh, yeah, okay. Good time.
There's a good ramen place in there. So you guys, you should. Like I said, there's some good food there.
Is it at the airport?
Yeah, it's at the airport. Yes.
Okay. All right. Good. That's because that's the only place I'm going to be.
All right. No. I'm saying in the airport that the Minneapolis airport is really cool. They also have that print store. They have a print store.
Yeah.
So there's
you can hit up. Oh yeah, I saw you posted that print store. If you need any advice too, like Jeremy Lukes and Ashley McClanahan both are going through that airport, every year. So they might have some tips. Yep.
Yeah, they're expanding the airport. They've been building on the airport, but that ramen place I'll have to get to. So, but all right, gentlemen, thanks so much for watching. Again, everybody, Crazy Clown, Steve, RJ. Oh, good to see R1 versus J4, but also Elton, if you're out there. Elton, our listener from Indiana, who's been a long-time listener. We haven't seen him comment in a while and miss him. Him and Sam are the usual suspects in here, but I haven't seen Elton in a while. So shout out to Elton if you're listening at home, wherever you listen to, and hope everything's well for you, sir. We'll talk to you Thursday for Motor City Metrics, as the Tigers will be taking on the Reds this week. Or excuse me, they'll be taking on the Reds at home this weekend. They take on the Orioles starting tomorrow, a 3-game set, with Sawyer Gibson-Long taking the mound. Until then, have a good week, everybody. And let me get my music bed also. And also, stay classy, everybody.